efficiency and oh, okay, now we're recording. Oops, let me just shut off this message here.
Sorry about that. Everyone, I didn't record. Scott, I think you saw that. I just started the recording. My apologies. We got most of it, Lisa. Please continue.
Oh gosh, okay. No, I was wondering, I didn't see the button open. No worries. I've done that 1,000 times on my own calls. So we're responsible for the safety, efficiency, and the quality of the entire school community. Our job is to keep schools open, keep kids in school, make sure there's a quality education and things are running smoothly. And we also have an obligation to our communities to make sure that our budgets are fiscally responsible and allocated accordingly. So we hire and support the leadership, which the biggest piece of that is the superintendent. We develop and adopt policies, we approve the allocation of the budget, and we do all of these with the kind of the North Star of forwarding our mission. And we have a pretty amazing one, actually, and I can't wait to talk about that. When we get all of that right, you know, the academic excellence sort of trickles down. What do I consider the most important actions of the board during my term? There are so many things to talk about, but the big things that come to mind is I got to be right when I started. I got to be on the hiring committee for our pretty fabulous superintendent. So I'm really proud of that. And I really feel like he's a fantastic leader and he does an amazing job. And definitely checks all the boxes of the things that we were looking for. So, you know, gentle yet firm leader, and he has clarity of vision for our district that I 100% am confident about and stand behind. Also, if anyone didn't notice, we're having a pandemic and keeping kids and staff safe was no easy feat during that time. And that is a huge accomplishment that we're still in the middle of making sure of. And at the same time, making sure that our students have access to their academic curriculum. So the balancing act of all of that has certainly been a challenge, continues to be a challenge. And then the third thing that I'm really proud about that has happened and is continuing to happen, it's all a journey all the time, is that our district as a whole, and it was already starting to happen before I even came on the board, it's really starting to put more of a focus on whole child education. So I was just talking about social emotional learning and those kind of pieces. So there's the academic side of a person, and then of course there's the social side and the emotional side and the mental health side and all of those sides, and that's all part of being a whole, healthy, happy person. And of course, in order to have academic excellence and have that even matter in terms of piling on, you know, stuff to learn, we first have to be a whole, healthy, happy person. That foundation needs to be set. So it's really exciting to even be drafting a mission, kind of an updated mission statement right now with the rest of the board and input from all kinds of stakeholders and having that be a real focus. So that's what I'm really excited about. Why am I running again? I just got started. I feel like when I joined the school board and I had the privilege to do that 3 years ago, it took me about a year to even know what the heck was going on. There's so much to learn, and as much, I guess, experience as I have, 15 years of experience of working with schools and kind of focusing on this stuff, I didn't know anything. And I have learned so much, and I just feel like I'm just kind of being able to contribute more and not only find my voice, but actually contribute valuable stuff that's supportive of our school district. And I'd like a chance to do that for at least another 3 years. So there's that. And the other piece is, as a mom, a busy parent, an entrepreneur, business owner, a career person, if you have a full-time job, this is huge. This is a humongous responsibility, especially the last few years. It's a lot of hours and a lot of commitment. And I always say to my younger friends with younger kids, you know, pick one thing in your community. Don't try to do everything and overwhelm yourself. And so the question is, how can you maximize your skills and experience to do that? And what should that do? What should that be? And for me, it was being a school board member. So I hope that I get to continue to do that. Thank you.
Great, Lisa, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Okay, Jenna Lee, same questions to you, just an introduction for everyone.
Yay. Okay. Talking about myself. That's something I'm good at. Okay. So about me, I'm a self-employed artist. I'm from Texas, so I'm a Texas gal. I was the assistant manager of a Goodwill there in town, actually the most successful Austin Goodwill, which was a huge deal. So I understand what it's like to work meeting budgets and to work directly with the community. So I understand about finances and all that good stuff. But I was able, like, I can do my own business if I can do this. Are you kidding me? So that's what I'm doing. I'm running my own business, being an artist. And was one of the questions you consider a role? Do you ask me the question, or I just read them and then go like who I am?
I can remind you if you want. Do you want me to
That'd
read
be
it over
great
again?
because
Sure. Yeah.
But no. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So the question was,
Sorry, I'm so nervous.
That's okay. And since I forgot recording, maybe it's good that I read the question again anyway for people now who are
Good idea.
So
Gracias.
Jenna is going to answer the introduction question, telling us a little bit about yourself, talking about what skills, background, work experience you bring to the school board, what you consider the role of board members in addressing academic excellence and fiscal concerns, and then what motivated you to run this year.
All right. So my background, like I said, I'm from Texas, and what inspired me to run, I'm a brutally honest person, which is good and bad. But I didn't search this role out. It sought me. And as my campaign says, I'm a big proponent for parents' voices, and I've attended 6 consecutive school board meetings, and I'm not hearing enough about the parents and community opinion, more directly down from the government. So I think it's incredibly important because every community is different and has different needs. So we need to be very aggressive in asking all the parents and everybody here who pays taxes what they would like the kids to be learning and to include them and stuff like that. Does that answer some stuff? I don't know.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great introduction. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Okay, well, I'll let you also just kind of flip it around. I'll let you answer the second question. And the second question is, what are the top 2 issues facing the school district right now? And how do you think the board should address them? And if, in your view, one of them is the global pandemic that has caused radical disruptions in education, please address these questions. In what way have the challenges of the past 2 school years hurt our children's education or well-being? And what might we have learned? Or how might some things have changed for the better as a result of the pandemic?
Okay. Well, I was just thinking, okay, anyway, I think too much. Okay, these are the 2 issues I had. The handling of the pandemic without much advice from the parents. Basically, just mandates, again, passed down from the government. And again, I'm going to keep drilling it home that it's the reason I'm running is I want the community to be involved and to have the school board vote on the community as a whole and what they want. So it's the handling of the pandemic based on the community's wants and needs. And the effect on the kids on the way it's been handled. I will say one thing that I really like that they're doing, and I love it, is the outside learning. That's incredible. If we can take anything from that, let's be outside more. Let's do stuff outside. I have all kinds of my own opinions, right? But this isn't about me. This is about the community. So I want to reach out and make sure that their voices are being heard, whether they want their kids masked or not. I feel like that should be up to the parents and up to the community. So, and not up to 6 people getting their information again from the state and federal. I mean, it's pretty simple when it comes to that. And one more thing, I do have a question about the $1,330,976.35 grant accepted by MSAD 35 for complying with the CDC guidelines, whether that's masks or pool testing. I think it's pretty important, again, that we ask the parents what they would like versus taking money in grants, not necessarily knowing what's best for our children. So I would like to know more about that, more visibility, more accountability. That's it.
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Okay, so we'll turn to Lisa now. And same question to you, Lisa. Top 2 issues facing the school district right now and how you think the board should address them. And then some commentary on the pandemic and the way that has affected school and children's education.
Yeah, so just to dovetail off what Jenna Lee was saying, certainly the pandemic has been for sure the biggest challenge and issue facing our schools now for a couple of years. In terms of the the real downsides and the plus sides. There are many on both sides. Of course, student social emotional well-being is paramount. It's like, layering the foundation of a house before you can pile on the academics, like I was saying before. We kept our kids safe, and we're continuing to keep them safe. And that's a challenge. And sometimes the decisions that have to be made and are recommended by our superintendent and others are not always super popular. Raise your hand if you don't like wearing a mask. I actually have claustrophobia, so it's really challenging for me. So I get it, and I get the questions that come up in terms of all of that. At the end of the day, though, knowing that social emotional well-being is so important, and seeing the data and seeing what's happening even right now in our schools and observing what's happened these first month or so of school, the best place and the safest place for our kids to be for their overall well-being is at school. And the way to keep kids in school, actually the only way to keep them in school right now, is to have a universal indoor mask mandate. And on top of that, pool testing. It's working right now. It's completely working. And how do we know that? Because we're doing pool testing, and someone who's positive is not spreading it to other people. This is how we keep kids in school, and that's where they need to be. And that's why these tough decisions have to be made. In terms of the upsides, the outdoor learning is absolutely one of them. So thank you for that, Jenna Lee. I know we get to hear a lot about those amazing things. What we don't necessarily always hear about is the obvious passion and commitment of our staff, of our administrators, and of our parents in working so hard to be compassionate, patient, empathetic. We're all in this together, and there's so many stories, I think, that could be shared more about all of those good things that are happening, even during really challenging times that sometimes could even be divisive if a pot is stirred enough. And what we really need right now is patience, understanding, and an appreciation of the amazing good work that so many people are doing. And I get to hear about that a little bit, but I know there's so much more happening at the building level and in our community as a whole. And so I really definitely want to honor that. We have lots of issues facing the district, honestly, but another big one that's just kind of come up in the last month or so is being a little bit critical is the lack of critical staff members. And we might not think of bus drivers that way all the time, but they really are. I mean, imagine if we don't have enough bus drivers. Kids can't get to school, and they can't get to extracurricular activities and all of those things. Across the country right now, it's hard to get staff for just about anything. So, I've got family business, I have my own business. I know that this is true. And we're certainly hearing about it in the news as well. And it's the same thing here in our district. So keeping enough staff on board so that we can provide the services that we need to for our students, bus drivers just being one example of a bunch, that's probably the most critical one right now, is a real challenge. How are we going to address it right now? I know that our leadership is getting really creative to make some proposals on how we can maybe do some incentivizing to bring in the folks that can help us with that.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, so I'll direct the third question to you as well, Lisa. This year, for the first time, the state of Maine will meet its obligation to fund 55% of K through 12 public education, a level established by voter initiative in 2004. How much additional state funding will that mean for RSU 35, and how do you want to see it spent? Do you think the additional funds should result in a lower local property tax rate? Given our decreasing enrollment in the past decade, do you support reducing the district budget? And if so, what areas would you target?
I'm sorry. Oh, I'm still unmuted. That's such an interesting question in the way that it's asked. So first of all, it's so awesome, right, that we're going to be fully funded to the level that we're supposed to be finally by the state. So that's the really good news. Our budget, though, is based on a whole bunch of things. One, it's important to understand that how much the state gives us depends on our enrollment. So you kind of just touched on that. Regardless of the percentage, it's still based on the enrollment that we had the year before. So they're not looking at our projections. They're looking at the year before we're actually doing the budget, if that makes sense. So it's almost 2 years prior. I think I have that right. And at the same time, our own budget and what we're planning for has to be based on the projected enrollment. So sometimes there's a little bit of a discourse there. And then also, then that dictates how many teachers we need, what support we need, how many supplies we need, all of it. It's just all kind of under that per pupil amount. So that's where the budget starts. So we got that settled. But then the next big thing that comes in is salaries, benefits, insurance, all of those things. That it comprises about 80%. I think it's 80% of our budget is just for that. And we have significant increases every year. Anybody who has health insurance knows that it's crazy, the increases that happen every year. So like a 3% increase is the equivalent of $600,000, right? So right now, just based on the numbers that we have. And I just got that from our financial manager, Ryan Cormier. So this is the type of stuff that's not necessarily in our control. There are things that are, and there are things that aren't. What somewhat is in our control are things like getting bids. So we're constantly researching the best deal on heating oil for the next year. Then, is it better to lease buses or purchase bus services from another country, or lease or buy our own and maintain them? These are questions that are coming up all of the time. It's ongoing research, plowing. These are, hundreds of thousands of dollars of cost. Some of that is in our control, and we're super fortunate to have Ryan Cormier as our financial manager for our district. He himself previously did the audits of school budgets for other districts for a living. So we're in super good hands, and there's nobody more meticulous than him. And then we need to make sure that our buildings stay operational and that they're safe for our kids to go in. We just had a mold issue, if you hadn't heard, at the middle school. Like literally classrooms had to be shut down. There was moisture all summer. We had people in the building. Because of the airflow, we had to bring that, because of the pandemic stuff, we have to constantly circulate that humid air from outside. It ended up turning into a mold issue. We had to shut down classrooms, move students elsewhere. And then of course we had to fix it. That's not stuff that you can plan for. And that's why it's really important that we always pad up our contingency budget, because that stuff happens every year and you don't know when it's going to happen. So yes, we want to see our taxes go down, and that should happen with a lower number of enrollment and per pupil costs. That should happen. But sometimes there's like some other variables or things that are happening that would make that not as much as we want. But there's always an explanation. And for anybody with any questions, there's a fantastic every year presentation of the budget and conversations for many, many meetings throughout the spring, with lots of opportunity for questions. So I encourage people to be part of that conversation, to Jenna's point.
Great. Thank you so much, Lisa. Okay, Jenna Lee, I'll switch over to you for that question now. And again, just a reminder, the question was about
Thank you.
The first time the state of Maine will meet its obligation to fund 55% of K through 12 public education, and how much additional state funding will that mean for RSU 35? How would you like to see it spent? And what does that mean for potentially lowering local property tax rates, or even reducing district budget?
All right. Well, first of all, I think that's fantastic that we've first time receiving obligation that we've met the funds that we were trying to meet. Like we've met. I'm so tired. I've been studying this too long. Okay, this is time. Okay, so this is the first time the state of Maine met the obligation of its funded 55%. That's excellent, and congrats for that. But when what's more important to me is the decreasing enrollment in the past decade of students. That's kind of a bigger issue for me. I don't know. I believe we get our funding. The school gets its funding from the amount of people enrolled in the schools. So I think that we should be focused on why are people enrolled less in the schools. That's huge to me. And as of areas where to spend money, I would focus more on education. I'm not seeing a lot about education. I've heard zero about actual education on any classes, whether that's history, English, math, and all about emotional learning. I have anxiety, as you can probably tell. So I understand mental illness hugely. And I think it's an incredibly important thing that we talk about it. I don't think the obsession, this hyper obsession and daily talk about it is actually helping the issue. If anything, I think it's kind of inflating the issue of mental illness. I know when I went to school, I would like to learn about math and not necessarily how to deal with not being depressed or anxious, especially with this pandemic. I can't even imagine. I think teachers should be primarily teachers. I don't think that they should have to be counselors as well. And that's also something that should be an independent one-on-one thing. If a kid is feeling a certain way, they should go to a counselor, they should talk to their parents. And I'm glad that we're talking about it. But I think that the focus needs to be, and the money needs to be going to actual education and less focus away from mental health. And I guess that's how I feel. But again, it's not up to me. It's up to you. That's why I'm here. I want to hear what the parents want, and I'll vote according to how they feel. And if that's how they feel and they want emotional learning, well, they got it. I'll vote for them. Okay. But anyway, you know where I stand on that. Sorry, I'm very new to this.
You're doing great. Thank you so much. All right, so I'll go ahead and ask you the next question. Then you can start with this next question. Schools traditionally have taught our children the ABCs, as well as how to be informed citizens and function more effectively in society. In 2021, what do you see as the role of schools in a global society in terms of guiding students to a better understanding of cultures, racial issues, and empathy? We also encourage you to address race and equity in the classroom if you see fit.
Well, I think my last question probably, it shows you where I stand on this. But again, it's not about me, it's about you. But that's why I'm here for people if I want to support them, if they also feel like me. I do love this question. I love this question. This is my favorite question because you asked about the ABCs. I don't know why we stopped talking about the ABCs. I miss, black and white, just good old fashioned education. Let's get that back in there. I don't understand what's happening, whether it's DEI or CRT. I think these things can be touched on, but a lot of it is more of a parent's thing. It's an individual thing. I don't know if it's something that we should be teaching in schools. This book, for example, they're having the staff read an MSAD 35 called Stamped by Ibram Kendi, who is a big proponent for defunding the police and also is an enthusiast of Marxism. I thought you guys were teaching this to high school students. I was wrong. I apologize. It's 8th grade. I go to msu35.org and you will see that this book, they're very proud of teaching this. This is very disturbing to me. It makes me want to cry a little bit because I was in 8th grade once and I couldn't imagine reading any of this stuff, but it's about murder. It's about the color of your skin, deciphering whether you're a victim or you're a bad person. So anyway, I miss the good old days when we talked about Martin Luther King, and it was super important about our content of character and not the color of our skin. And as a superintendent has in his said in his statement, he wants the schools to be less violent and worry about, race and gender and sexuality. All of that is, if there is an issue with violence in the school, I think that should be dealt with. You should be telling us about that. Otherwise, I don't understand why this is a huge focus. It gets me all worked up because I'm incredibly passionate. I don't have any children, but I care. I also don't have any social media. If you want to reach out to me, reach me out an email or my phone number. I'm also not a huge fan of social media as of lately. So anyway, check out this book. I think it's very important that the parents know what's being taught in the curriculum. That's something else I want to make sure that the curriculum is crystal clear. Parents are very busy. They don't have time to be going through a million doors asking questions. This should be already provided on all the curriculums in every classroom. Let the parents know it's being taught. but I suggest you look into this. I don't feel comfortable reading the things in here, to be quite honest. And I'm 36. And after reading this, I felt like a horrible human being, and I'm an adult. I can't imagine an 8th grader. And I'm going to end on that because I'm getting fired up.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. Lisa, so same question to you. And maybe I'll just read the question again. It may be easier. We'll have to see when we get to the town council questions if it's helpful to have me read it again. But again, schools have traditionally taught children the ABCs. In 2021, what do you see as the role of schools in a global society in terms of guiding students to a better understanding of cultures, racial issues, and empathy, and addressing race and equity in the classrooms?
Thank you. It's such a big question, and I want to honor so much of what Jen is saying. So we've been talking a lot about social emotional learning and mental health because it's a crisis right now. It's not because we're ignoring academics or the importance of academics. We have a really strong and amazing curriculum with really strong and amazing teachers. That's really not a huge concern right now. Always looked at, always investigated, researched, and updated. In fact, we just, passed an updated policy just last night talking about how our textbooks, we can't have the same textbook for 20 years. Really, we need to be looking at our textbooks every handful of years and just making sure that they're relevant, that they're historically accurate, and as well that we are representing diverse perspectives, of which stamped as an example is one very literal diverse perspective. And by the same token, I have no doubt that our 8th grade curriculum includes many other perspectives as well. And ultimately, that's what we want to be able to have for our students so that they can learn how to think, not what to think, but how to think and how to think critically. And hopefully also along the way, with that understanding of diverse perspectives, develop some compassion and some empathy. For even if we don't agree, it's okay. It's totally okay not to agree. In fact, the world would be very boring if that were the case, right? But we need to be able to have dialogues with mindful communication and empathy and perspective of where the other person is coming from. If we can't do that, we're going to keep spinning our wheels in this world. And I think the vision here is that we grow a generation of kids that's able to have difficult conversations really respectfully so that we can grow as a human race. I get really emotional about this stuff too, Jenna Lee, and I actually think we're on the same side in a lot of ways. I really feel strongly that education, the purpose of education, really needs to focus on teaching kids how to think, not what to think. And the only way that we can do that is if we make sure that what we're presenting is historically accurate and that we are representing a diverse number of perspectives. And in terms of just going back to our mission is, it's a big paragraph. I'm not going to read it, and there's bullets underneath it, but certainly, a couple of those bullets are really around making sure that every student feels like they belong, that they feel safe, that they feel included, that they feel honored and valued and respected and like their voice is heard. And we don't always have that situation in our schools. And that could be because of the skin color or because of someone's abilities or lack of abilities or difficulty or challenges. It's not just about race. That's one piece. But there's many, many other ways and reasons that students might not feel safe and appreciated and valued. And just going back to the understanding, you think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. What do you need first? You need to feel safe and secure. We can't literally grow as humans or learn anything until that foundation is set in place. And that's really kind of that idea of a focus on whole child education. That's not just in our district. This has been going on for years and years, and we're kind of catching up, which is great. It doesn't mean that academics and the level of academia and that's any less important. It just means, and we also want to make sure of this. I hope that answered the question. Thank you.
It did. Thank you so much, Lisa. I appreciate it. So now we just have a few closing remarks from both of you. Lisa, I'll let you go first, and then we'll turn to Jenna Lee. Just tell us about any issues that we didn't ask about that you'd like to address.
Sorry, I had muted myself. I feel like we've covered a lot. I don't feel like I need to take up a whole bunch of everyone's time. Um, I would just be honored to have an opportunity to continue on and continue the good work that's already happening in the district. It is a volunteer position. I feel like sometimes people forget that. It's a lot of work, but it's really, really rewarding. And on the board itself, I will tell you, we have diverse opinions and perspectives. And I'm really, really proud to be part of a leadership team and a board and a school district that prioritizes respectful communication and doing what's best for students, which at the end of the day, that's what this is all about and the only thing that matters. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Jenna Lee, a couple of minutes just to, if there's anything you want to tell us about that we didn't ask that you'd like to address, or just generally make some closing remarks.
Yes, we're at the end of this. I've already had meltdowns and all that. Yeah, and I totally agree with what she was just saying. We have a lot we can agree on and a lot that we may not always agree on. And that's kind of part of life. And it's a beautiful thing. I think disagreeing is great. You come to like almost a genius conclusion sometimes if you are able to disagree. As for feeling safe and secure, I don't know if that is necessarily the job of the school, more so the parents as a child should feel safe and secure. But that's a great thing to think about. They should feel that way automatically. Again, I don't know why it's like 90% of the curriculum. And empathy and compassion is something I don't believe that can be taught. I feel like you're born with that. And last I checked, school, I've never been to a school that was super angry, and I'm from Texas. But anyway, enough about that. Like I said, I'm brutally honest. I'm super lucky to have this opportunity to speak with you guys, and thank you, Lisa Flynn, for everything that you do and have done. This is complete. As you can see, I'm a mess. This is completely new to me. I'm so passionate. It's almost disgusting. I don't have a social media account again, and you can reach me at jennaleelizard@gmail.com, and I'll be all around town and you'll see me and all that cool stuff. But another point is that, again, this is not about me at all. It's about the town. And I've not seen any education discussed in school board meetings, just social emotional learning, to the point of not necessarily being helpful. I would like to also see those pool testings that Lisa was saying were successful. I'd like things like that, evidence to be brought to the parents' attention, why their kids are getting pool tested. How are they being successful besides othering them and sending them home? I would like to see the efficacy of that and to be more visible. It shouldn't be a lot of work to figure that out versus just taking someone's word for it, which I think has become a huge problem. It's about the kids. It's not about me. It's about the kids. It's about the parents. It's about the community. It's about South Berwick. And that is why I'm running. God bless.
Thank you so much, Jenna Lee. And thank you very much, Lisa. We really appreciate hearing from both of you. So next up, we're going to switch over to our town council candidates. Jessica, Alita, Abby, Jeff, and Matt. And so we'll do the same thing here. In this case, we have 5 questions with a closing. So I'll start with the first question, which is also an introduction. And Jessica, you're first on my list, so we'll start with you to go first. I'll read the question. Please just tell us about yourself. What skills and experience do you bring or would you bring to the town council? It's a very challenging position that involves multi-million-dollar budgets, town ordinances, and personal issues. Convince us you are prepared to attend and engage in meetings, public hearings, workshops, sometimes 3 in a week, as well as doing homework in between, so you're prepared to contribute to the council's work.
Awesome. Thank you, Lisa. And thank you to Civil Central for pulling this together. It's great to be here. I'm Jessica Sear. You may know me as that lady downtown that picks up trash and waters the planters with her 3 kids. I was born and raised in Sanford. I've lived downtown since 2006, and I've been a homeowner on Academy Street since 2010. Academically, I hold a degree in public management from Plymouth State University. Professionally, I've built a career at an area membership association in Portsmouth. I started with the organization 11 years ago as an assistant, and today I'm a senior manager of sales operations. I directly manage $6 million in revenue in 3 product lines on a team of 21, where I directly manage 7 sales representatives and administrative staff. I have people that report up to me who are seated both in the United States and in Europe. My day-to-day work life requires organization, detailed planning, and building deep relationships with other internal teams. These are essential skills which I will bring to the council on day 1. I'm recognized as an operational manager, which shows my understanding of project management and the need to define action items and deliverables and establish timelines to get stuff done. Project management and working well with others is essential when working in a collaborative environment. I've been regularly attending the town council and planning board meetings, and I attended the in-person town meeting in June. My understanding of the items before the council has motivated me to help our town advance successfully into the future. I'm passionate about this community. I'm raising my kids here. I want to retire here, and I want to help advance our town with creative solutions to improve the quality of life here in a proactive way. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that. And now we'll have Alita is next on my list to answer the same question. Just go ahead and introduce yourself and tell you what skills and experience you'd bring to town council.
Great. Hi, I'm Alita. I just wanted to, like Jessica, I wanted to thank Smart Growth and Lisa for putting this on. I really think this is a great opportunity, even though it's not ideal to do this via Zoom, because it certainly provides the opportunity for more people to be able to attend that maybe couldn't come in person. I think that's a really great thing that's come out of COVID is the accessibility piece of that. I have been put down roots in this town for a long time, like Lisa. I have lived here nearly my entire life, most of that downtown. I've also spent a lot of my working life downtown. That includes working actually at the town offices, in the code office and the town clerk office. I've also sat in on other boards, including Garrison Players and the Seacoast Cancer 5K, which if anybody knows, that is a huge event that goes on up until COVID, has gone on every year and has grown successfully. I have prior management history, including being the office coordinator at a very large medical practice. You don't get to do that without learning how to negotiate with people, manage difficult situations, and oversee any conflicts that may come up. I also kind of pride myself in being really successful in working with insurance companies to get them to authorize needed surgeries and tests for patients. If you've ever had to deal with an insurance company, you know that that is not necessarily always an easy task, especially if you need them to think outside of their boxes. And I pride myself on being extremely good at that. As far as why I decided to run, I too love and care about this town. I actually don't like to make commitments that I can't keep. So if I didn't feel like I could be here, attend meetings, do the homework, I most certainly would not be running for this position. I just think that's really irresponsible to go out for something that you just can't do, and you know you can't. And I do enjoy learning. I have no problem doing whatever work is needed to be prepared, ready to go and contribute. That's actually why I'm here, is I feel like it's really important to give back and to contribute to your community. Certainly this town has given a lot to myself and to my family. And so I am eager to give some of that back to this community.
Thank you so much, appreciate it. Okay, next we'll go to Abby Kemble. Same thing, just introduce and tell us a little bit about yourself and the skills and experience you bring to town council.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Smart Growth, for hosting this event. I personally know how challenging it is during a pandemic to plan events, but this is wonderful. Thank you for doing those extra steps to make it happen. My name is Abby Sherwood Kemble, and I'm your town councilor. I was elected for the first time. The first time I ever ran for office was in 2018. Since then, I've been elected by my peers as vice chair for the past 2 years of the town council. A couple times I've gotten to take the gavel. Jack wasn't available, and so I got to chair a few meetings. I have a master's in peace and conflict studies. This has been immeasurably helpful in my role as the town councilor in dealing with sometimes heated issues and promoting a healthy civil discourse. I'm an educator. I taught political science at the university level in Germany while I was working on my master's, and an incomplete PhD in political science. I did not finish the book. And here I've brought that into teaching in the schools, students, both private and public, about civics and how they can be an advocate. One of my favorite experiences from this is I ask all the grades, who's my boss? And I've gotten the funniest responses to that. But when you finally tell them, no one's ever gotten it right. Maybe they will if they're watching. I would love for students to be watching this right now. But I say, you're my boss. I work for you. And just the looks on their face when that kind of sinks in has really made it worth it, because right now we're 4 town councilors. It's increased our workload somewhat significantly, but we work hard to represent everyone in town. And so bringing youth and engaging them in that process is crucial. I'm a political consultant. I worked for a number of years doing political work for Planned Parenthood. Most recently, I was Senator Mark Lawrence's campaign manager for the last 2020 election cycle. I'm a mom of 2. The schools are why I moved here. I knew that I wouldn't have to move by middle school or by high school, that my girls were set to go through the whole system. And I have Madeline, who's 9, and she's in Great Works. As soon as I moved here, I heard about Mr. Brunel from my neighbors, even though my daughter wasn't even in Central yet. I'm so thrilled that he is still there, and my daughter gets to experience this leadership, and it's just such a special place. My other daughter, Eleanor, is 5, and she's at Central School and absolutely loves it with Dr. Deeren. I ran in 2018 to be an active and engaged counselor. I have missed 1 meeting or inclusive of workshops, and trust me, there's been a lot, and I regret that. It was my first year. It was an ice storm. And now that we have Zoom, that wouldn't happen. I had a breakthrough COVID case, and I was still able to come to the town council meeting and participate. Maybe not my most efficient. I was pretty taken out with that. Everyone should be vaccinated. But
3 minutes, Abby.
Okay. I listen to all viewpoints, and I welcome engagement. I'm a policy wonk, a bit of a nerd like that, and I love getting people involved in the process because this is your government. We work for you.
Thank you so much, Abby. Yes, thank you, Karen. We were realizing we weren't hearing Karen's bell very well when people's times are up, so now she's just going to speak up. So I think that's going to help keep the flow a little bit better. So she'll be breaking in every now and then if we start to go over. Okay, Jeff, next you can answer the introductory question and tell us a little bit about yourselves and the skills and experience you would bring to town council.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Like everyone else, I just want to thank you, Lisa, for doing this, and for Smart Growth and SoBo Central for hosting the forum tonight. I really think it's a great way to allow members of the town to be able to get to know us a little bit better. My name is Jeff Minahan, and I currently serve on the South Berwick Planning Board and the South Berwick Conservation Commission, as well as some other boards and committees in town. In these capacities, I currently dedicate a lot of my week to the town and things happening in South Berwick, whether it be I do some cleaning up at the town forest, diving into the planning board materials. I read through our ordinances, and I really am focused on making sure I understand our charter and comprehensive plan. In my spare time, I also been signing up for seminars and courses that are hosted through the Maine Municipal Association. And I do that so that I can better understand the workings of our town bodies. In my professional career, in my professional career as a supplier, manager, planner, and scheduler has enabled me to have the opportunity to negotiate large contracts and manage the needs and requirements of numerous multi-million-dollar companies, and successfully lead with vision, communication, and effective goal setting. I live in the Agamenticus neighborhood with my wife, and I'm a Mainer through and through. I was raised in Acton, Maine, and although not a lifelong resident here, South Berwick has been a constant part of my life. With friends and family who live and work here, I've spent lots of time over the years attending games, eating downtown, hiking the trails. Having lived in central and western Maine, I have firsthand knowledge of life around the state, but the history and sense of community here makes South Berwick special. It's why I'm proud to call it my home and why I feel called to take an active role in its future. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Jeff. Okay, Matt, last one to take, question one, introduction. Just tell us a little bit about yourself and the experience you would bring to town council.
Good evening, everyone. I am Matt Rovnak. I want to thank Small Growth South Berwick and Sobo Central and you, Lisa, for hosting this tonight and giving the opportunity to let people know a little bit about myself. Moved to South Berwick 30 years ago next July. My wife and I moved here. We both lifelong residents of York up until that point. We realized that York was not some place that we could afford to live, but we're looking for the same kind of quality. We found it in South Berwick. We've been here ever since. Very happy about it. We have two daughters. One is 27, one is 24. So we've kind of run the other gamut on this school part. Our oldest, Abby, just graduated this past May and is now a doctor of chiropractic. And our youngest is the office manager at Great Works Chiropractic in downtown South Berwick. A little bit about myself as far as work goes. I now work for the Department of the Navy at Portsmouth Naval Shipyard. Prior to that, from 1991 to 2015, I worked for a small family-owned business in York. So I have a good sense of the struggles for family-owned businesses. Company was called Maine Wood Design. We manufactured custom store fixtures and architectural millwork. Our scope of work was worldwide. We manufactured and shipped stores to France, Germany, England, and Spain. We also shipped and installed stores in British Columbia, Canada, and almost all 50 states. Our install crews were out probably 10 months out of the year. Started off working on the floor, became shop supervisor, and then the past 17 years while employed there, I was the plant manager. As plant manager, my first responsibilities, we built a brand new facility in York, and it was the layout and the flow and the construction of the building, the equipment coming in. Once we were up and running, everything that happened to the building, on the building, around the building was to deal with. The manufacturing, the finishing, the warehousing, the shipping, I oversaw all of that. Ordering materials, sheet goods, hardwoods, hardware, solid surface material. In the time that I was there, the company went from $3 million of sales to $12 million a year in sales. So for a small business, that's pretty good. Very busy, multitasking, dealing with a number of sub shops, suppliers. Again, our crews out in the field and helping them make sure that they get everything that they need. In South Berwick, during that time, I spent 14 years involved in the Little League program. Started off as a coach, team manager, board rep, eventually became the president of South Berwick Little League. Softball program that when we started was 3 teams. Over my tenure and with a group of dedicated volunteers, we expanded that to 4 majors teams, 4 minors teams, a mini minor program, and along with the town of Wells, were instrumental in forming a interleague program that included the towns of Wells, North Berwick, Kittery, ourselves, and York.
And that just to sort of wrap up your introduction.
Yep, and very happy to be here. My kids are gone and I have all this free time and I have a skill set that has served me well over the years, and I do believe it will serve the town of South Berwick in the same capacity. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Actually, you can stay on because I'm going to ask you, we're going to start with you and we'll kind of shift back to Jessica then and we'll kind of rotate that way. So I'll let you go ahead and answer the second question first and I'll read it. In your view, what are the top 2 issues that are facing the town right now? And how do you think the council should address them? Please be specific about the issues and your recommendations. For the incumbent, that's not you, but what do you consider the most important actions for the council during your term and what motivated you to seek another term? So that'll be for Abby. For you, what motivated you to run this year?
So the motivation for running this year is I've always enjoyed being involved. And now that the kids have gone by in the youth sports, it was a matter of where can I take my skill set? What can I apply it to? And where is it? Could it be beneficial to the town? Town council, that's where it came from. To me, the 2 biggest issues, for me, the top issue is small business in the town of South Berwick. And this is not limited to the downtown area. We all know the constraints of businesses in the downtown area, the lack of space, lack of parking. But with the amount of houses being built, we need to offset the tax base with new businesses. Right now, we've got a good start with Pumpkin Place. It just opened up on 236 across from the high school. It's doing well. I understand that there's potential for more to go there. I think the town council in the town itself, we could spend some time with the developers, helping to get them some exposure for their projects, maybe some marketing for their projects as a way to promote their business and also promote the town of South Berwick at the same time. My other big issue for the town of South Berwick, and I think we've heard this through the school board, Jessica touched on it, Lisa touched on it, is better communication. I think a lot of people miss out on the meetings due to lack of communications, the times, the dates. I know myself, there's been times when I have gone to sit down at night on town council nights and tried to watch the live stream, and it hasn't been up and running. I think we need to work on building clearer and more concise website for the town. I think that's people's social media has become a big thing. I think that's another avenue that the town could explore. I think it's something that should come from the manager or the staff. I'm going to leave it at that.
That was great. Thank you. Okay, Jessica, we'll let you take that question next. Top 2 issues facing the town and what motivated you to run this year?
All right, so I just asked my kids, I was like, hey, we got any issues? And they were like, no issues. So I guess I'll have to dig deep for it. But I think 2 issues facing the town are communication and number 2, long-term planning. So for instance, the communication issues, we've touched on it, but I would almost say that it's communication issues intra-department. So if the town council is planning for something, they need some foresight on the issues so it doesn't impact other departments. I would advocate for increased communication in the form of standing meetings between the town council, the town manager, and the town departments like the police and the public works to form a more collaborative relationship. And then the second issue, long-term planning. Long-term planning is not just a shot in the dark. We have a 2006 comprehensive plan that's out of date and needs some love. So the town has spent several $1,000s on a review by Southern Maine Planning, but we've done little with that information in a year and a half. I would propose that the council reestablish the comprehensive plan committee and engage our citizens to help update the plan to reflect what they want South Berwick to be. Let me be clear, we need community planning engagement so we end up where we want to be. In addition, our long-term planning board chair, Bill Straub, recently announced his retirement, and those are big shoes to fill. The planning board has multiple positions open. Long-term planning is also a consideration when it comes to existing grants available to communities. There is funding out there. We need talent on the council to put items onto the agenda and to actively research and apply for grants. What motivated me to run is the lack of communication and transparency with our town government and the town council's overall lack of engagement with our
2
community.
minutes. Thanks, Karen. Thank you, Jessica. Okay, Alita, we'll have you go next. Top 2 issues facing the town right now and what motivated you to run this year.
Great, thank you. Top 2 issues for our town. I think one of the top 2 would be traffic and safety, and I don't just mean downtown. I think Matt has an excellent point about needing to support small business. One of the ways you do that is making it more safely accessible to the general public. We have a horrible traffic problem in our downtown. Everybody knows that. I've been here a long time and I've heard people debate this for many, many moons. So this is not new news. But we also have a problem up at 236 up by the high school. There have been multiple accidents, some of which have involved students. That stretch of road definitely needs a traffic light and a lower speed limit. That also makes it very difficult for people to get in and out of those new businesses that are up there if they feel like they can't get in and out of there safely. The same is true for downtown. As much as it pains me to say it, because I am something of a traditionalist and I love our history. I've talked to engineers, I've done my homework. One of the only things we could do at this point is to put some traffic lights downtown to continue that flow of traffic and make it so it's a safe flow of traffic, it's through flow, and it's not getting bogged down in the downtown. That is creating a lot of issues you're seeing with people who are nearly getting hit by cars. I'll tell you, I work downtown and I can't even tell you how many times that I personally thought the cars were going to come through my storefront window. And that was before traffic is what it is today. We can't engage and keep our small businesses if people can't access them. I think we need to do a better job of also directing people toward where we do have parking. We do have the resources to make this happen, but we have to do the action to do it. The other reason that I ran, very similar to Matt and Jess, I am really concerned about the lack of communication and transparency with our current town council. When I have been approached by people who are asking me about my candidacy, the number one thing I hear all the time from people is they feel like they're not getting good, clear communication. I agree, the website needs to be updated. I think it's great that we get emails, but the emails don't tell you what's been updated. You have to go do the digging for yourself. I think like the school does, we can have a better online presence in announcing meetings and where they are and how to access them. I think we should keep the online meeting function to allow for more participation from the public, particularly for parents who are busy. It's a great idea. I am also running because I am open to representing the people who live here. And in order to do that, you have to be able to effectively communicate, but you also have to be able to effectively listen. And that's clearly something that's been lacking.
Thank you so much, Aaliyah. Okay, Abby, now same question to you, top 2 issues facing the town. And then for you, what do you consider the most important actions of the council during your term and what motivated you to seek another term?
All in 2 minutes, right? Okay. All right, start. I'm going to try to make this clear and succinct. Leadership and direction are the top 2 issues. We're in the middle of hiring to solve a lot of the problems that have been listed tonight. We're going to fix that with new leadership. In one of the candidates' interviews this past week, they actually used this analogy. They said that the town manager is like a taxi driver. And the people that get in your taxi are like the elected officials, because we don't all stay forever. It's not meant to be like that. We get elected for a term and someone comes out and a new person comes in. So the taxi driver is the manager, but the cab is the comprehensive plan, because you don't just get in a taxi and expect to get out at your destination where you want to go. You have to tell the taxi where you're going. So it's been brought up and I completely agree. I have fought to get this on the agenda to talk about the comprehensive plan. Specifically, I worked to get a solar farm moratorium put in to give us a chance in that comprehensive plan session to talk about what do we want, where do we want it, and talk about things like that. The most important issues are many of the things that I've accomplished in 3 years. I think how I handled the pedestrian safety committee, it was originally going to be called the traffic committee. What can we do about traffic? We've had so many Department of Maine Department of Transportation surveys and reports that have told us that the safest thing for us to do is to put in a light. I knew that that was an elephant in the room and that we weren't going to do anything. What I did know is hard for me to cross the street with my daughter without us getting hit in the crosswalks, which they're all illegal. So the mission of our pedestrian safety committee is what can we do right now to make it safer to enjoy our downtown, our beautiful downtown? Because when we do that, increase walkability, make it safer, people are going to frequent our businesses more. They're going to
2 minutes.
go on a bar hop or something like that. So that's important. A lot of what I do on the council and other counselors, it's not seen. So some of the most important work has been touching someone's life on a one-on-one basis, and that would be hooking someone up with the services that we provide with the food pantry, or helping a small business suffering because of code violations and it wasn't being listened to. So making sure that that's a priority. Similar to what Lisa answered with running for re-election, I studied political science and I taught it and I worked it, but being a counselor and figuring out the process of it, the nuts and bolts, that takes a little bit of time. I feel like I've gotten a role of it and I can be an effective leader. And so I would ask the public for another term so I can continue steering the ship in the right way.
Thank you, Abby. All right, Jeff, your last to answer this question: top 2 issues facing the town and what motivated you to run this year.
Excellent. First, I think it's important that we recognize that the town has entered into a transition period, not just with the search for a new town manager, but in other key positions as well. Transparency is important during any transition, so the residents are aware of what's happening and understand what's going on. I too will add an analogy similar to Abby's. I tend to think in pictures. So let's think of a horse and buggy. I picture the townspeople like the passengers. They tell the driver where they'd like to go, and then they sit and wait for arrival. The town manager is like the horse. They have the power, the knowledge, and the skills to reach the destination, and they have the ability to navigate the terrain, whether it be smooth and level or whether it be filled with muddy ruts. And the town council, they're like the driver. They don't have the skills and the ability of the horse, and they don't choose the destination. The driver, they have the responsibility of setting the vision and the goal to reach the destination. And they have the obligation to be proactive in communicating and addressing the issues that arise. The communication and transparency of the town council in the driver's seat is crucial because we're all in the same ride together. I have already created some tools that I think will actually help with this. The second issue is sort of part of the transition, and it's the growth of the town. South Berwick's population has grown over 1,000 people in the last 10 years. It's important that we look toward our future with smart growth in mind. Smart growth in housing, business, public spaces, and roads. These 2 examples are just part of what motivated me to run this year. And working on the planning board also fed my desire to join and empower the town council to take a more proactive action towards South Berwick's future.
Thanks, Jeff. Okay, I'm going to actually have you now answer the next question, start that round off, and we'll kind of go to Matt next and so forth. So the third question we have is: Smart Growth South Berwick, the organizer of this forum, was established around the goal of working for a town that is strong economically, socially, and environmentally. Please address your thoughts on how we can create a stronger town, and if possible, include your ideas about pedestrian safety, traffic lights, the Vine Street Bridge, and the future of Town Hall, updating the comprehensive plan, and what role, if any, the council should play in reducing the town's environmental impact.
Great. The concept of and strategy of smart growth is something that I really believe in. Strong towns embrace and encourage individuality and the sense of place of each neighborhood and area. Strong towns They provide many options for residents to shop, work, learn, and play close to where they live, and safe ways for them to get there. First and foremost, we need to understand our current state of our town. We can't effectively plan where we want to be without knowing where we are now. And I believe that starts with our comprehensive plan. Our current juniors and seniors in high school, they were born the same time our current comprehensive plan was conducted. A lot has changed since then. It's the responsibility of the town council to initiate that and put forward a vision that will lead to a stronger South Berwick. Once we have that updated comprehensive plan based on real data and input from the residents, specific perennial issues can then be addressed. Things like pedestrian safety and traffic lights. Traffic brings customers to businesses, both pedestrian and vehicular. Strong towns implement smart growth strategies that provide safety and accessibility for businesses and all of their patrons. The Vine Street Bridge and Town Hall, many people have heard me say this. Here in South Berwick, we interact with history daily. I think that our historic treasures should be valued and handed to the next generation. We have a responsibility to maintain our town sites, buildings, and resources.
2 minutes.
But we also have to make informed decisions regarding how they fit into the vision of the future of the town. These decisions must also take into account any environmental impacts, because being good stewards of our town means being good stewards of our environment.
Thanks, Jeff. Okay, Matt, that question, same question to you. Address your thoughts on how we create a stronger town.
I believe part of my answer previously with working towards building small businesses is going to make us a stronger town, both economically and socially. Environmentally, I think those issues as they come up need to be looked at as they come up, to ensure that they are in the best interest of the town, and both long-term and short-term, and what is the cost of those issues. And I think we need to do a better job of looking at it from multiple angles to decide, are there other options? I think Jeff made a very good point. Taking care of the environment takes care of the town, because if we don't have a good, healthy town, it's not going to be the place that people want to live. When we go to talking to the lights, and I think as long as I've been in town, the discussion has been about lights, and it's not just South Berwick, because you can go up the road in the afternoons to North Berwick and we have the same problems and they have a light, and we can go west into Berwick and they have the same problems and they have a light. It is because of where we are. We are a crossroads. We are the crossroads for people traveling from the shipyard to go to Sanford. The town of Sanford is one of the largest number of employees at Portsmouth Naval Shipyard. They're going to come through here. I think it's incumbent upon the town to work with small businesses and the state. Both the roads running into the town belong to the state. The state's going to determine who gets the light, if they get a light. We also need to understand that if we get a light, we're going to lose parking spaces, because the regulations that go along with it, you have to have clear vision either side of lights for safety. That being said, I think there's some things that we can do. I know the city of Portsmouth has done a couple things where they've created some bump outs in the sidewalk areas to slow the traffic. We could probably do something like that coming into town. As people swing up into Route 4, they're not coming in as fast as they normally would. I also know that just the fact that the police department has been out on Route 4 in town taking radar has slowed down a lot of people. As far as the Vine Street Bridge, I think we need to look at it. If that's what people want, what is the long-term cost of that bridge? Is it something that they're going to expect the town to take over maintenance-wise? And if they are, we need to have a projected cost of that maintenance going forward. It's nice to want things, but do we need things? And if we want things, are we willing to invest the time and money into the want? I'm going to leave it
You're
at
at
that.
3 minutes. Yep.
Thank you. Thank you, Matt. Okay, Jessica, you take that question for you then too. Sorry, I don't know if you want me to reread it again a little bit. Just essentially,
A little bit of
how
a
do we create it?
refresher.
How do we create a stronger town?
So I think South Berwick is a strong community, and I absolutely love living here. I see the potential for our downtown to have a fresh, interesting character, just like the Kittery Four side. We should continue to work with social groups to bring programming into the downtown to help these businesses. Town councilors should continue to volunteer and encourage increased volunteerism from their seats, because we all have something to contribute to this community. The town should absolutely work with the Maine Department of Transportation to figure out the major intersections with town. And I would advocate for a redesign of the downtown traffic and parking. Guys, I live at a major intersection in town. I see the traffic. I understand your concerns. I've witnessed the accidents, and your concerns about traffic will not fall on deaf ears because I live with the traffic every day. The town should really consider an electric vehicle charging station to bring people downtown and have them stay. Vehicles are changing, so let's be ahead of the curve and take advantage of some available grants. Obviously, budgeting is critical to make sure that we're maintaining the facilities that we have. This includes consideration for our utilities, our water and sewer districts. I'm a working mom, and I understand that quality childcare is so important. I would like to see the town encourage a multi-generational facility to increase the health and well-being of all the participants, to reduce social isolation, and to create some cost efficiencies. I would also like to bridge the programming between the community center and the library to offer some more interaction with the generations. This spring, I'm going to become one of the area's first certified master recyclers, which means I have an understanding of what happens to trash. I think I can take this knowledge to the town council and be of super use when our town's municipal solid waste contract is up in a few years. I can help the town council make thoughtful decisions for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Okay, Alita, same question to you. How do we create a stronger town?
Hi. So I agree a lot with what Jess has to say. I think the biggest thing that we do to do a strong town is to work together collaboratively. I know that my experience living downtown is different than my experience living in a neighborhood, and that's different than somebody's experience living out in the Tatnick area. And we need all of that input from all of those people who live there in order to build a better comprehensive plan, which everyone is absolutely correct is completely out of date. And we should be looking at revamping that. Along with updating the comprehensive plan, I think it would be a fantastic idea to also engage local students, because we need that fresh young approach and their vision for our future, but we also need to be showing them how this is done, because they are going to be the future leaders. And if we don't show them how to do it, all the work we do now won't be nearly as effective as it could be. I do think that traffic is a huge issue. And as much as, yes, it would stink to lose some parking spaces, most people are not parking downtown and forgiving businesses because they feel like they can't. They either can't find space at all because they don't know where to access it, or they don't park downtown because it's so dangerous to get in and out of your car to freaking visit a business down there. So even though I don't love the idea, I do think it's an important one. As far as the Vine Street Bridge, sorry, I'm trying to cram this into 2 minutes. It's hard. I would also be in support of a pedestrian bridge. I understand that there was a brigade that was working on that at one point, but I do think that budget considerations also should be made as far as sustainability, both fiscally and in maintenance. I also think it would be fiscally responsible to consider town hall and how much space we're actually using versus how much space we're actually paying for. Old buildings are fantastic, but they're also very expensive to heat, light, and all of that. And while I certainly do not want to lose any of the history of that building, and I think there are other ways we could use that. I don't know if keeping town offices in that space or spending that kind of money to maintain it is the most responsible way to go. But I'm definitely opening to those suggestions. And I do also agree, anytime we make a decision, the environmental impact is also extremely important in how we go about it. There are many reasons why we love this town, and nature and the way we take care of it is one of them.
Thank you. Okay, Abby, your last one for this question. How do we create a stronger town?
I've mentioned strategic planning in the comp plan. We have to have a roadmap, and through this process, it's going to engage a whole new generation of volunteers. As it's been mentioned, a lot of our boards and committees are hemorrhaging people. And based on the outcome of this election, it could be losing even more. So it's important to keep on engaging that young generation to keep them focused. That's why I go into the schools. That's why I make myself accessible for questions. It's to let people know that they matter and that it's their responsibility to be a part of the solution. If you have a problem, let's work together and let's figure out how we as a town can do it. You have the most power at the local level. It took me a while to figure that out, but it's very much true. So we can be frustrated with what's going on in Washington. That's kind of what got me to run 3 years ago. I just wanted to focus on our nice little bubble here and just make a difference here. And that was very satisfying and a good sense of therapy to help me cope with what was going on. But I like, as I said, I chaired the pedestrian safety committee and even named it that to cut down on some conflict. And what we saw was immediate changes that immediately made it safer downtown. Visibility was increased with the LED light conversion, also with a cost savings. We increased our parking actually by allowing now folks to park in the back of Town Hall, which is great. Drive by any weekend and you'll see it packed, which is lovely because that just means that people are enjoying our beautiful downtown. The environment is incredibly important. Young people especially are really sensitive to this in a way that we should be, you know, as older folks as well. But when I tell the students that we don't recycle paper, there's an audible gasp. And we had to take your parents to town council night. It was packed. There was some standing in the back. I loved that. But they wanted us to ban single-use plastic bags. And they were super tasked with that. So they came in, a lot of them with their parents, some with teachers. It was like a field trip for Great Works. A great teacher there brought over her class. Because they can be part of the difference and they can make a change. So I would like to recycle paper once and for all. I was told by previous management we could purchase an incinerator that could only be used for paper. Let's stop putting it into a waste fill. I volunteer. If we don't have enough money in the budget, I will fundraise to put an incinerator at the transfer station so we're not filling up the landfills with any more of our paper. Thank you.
Thanks, Abby.
Pine Street Bridge, I would love to do that. I met with Scott as soon as I was elected. I got to see the neat model. I would love, Scott, for you to come to town council and give us an update on that work because it's an exciting project.
Thank you. And really, thanks to everyone for keeping to the 2 minutes as best you can when Karen gives you that marker, because it does help us keep to hopefully at least 2 hours for tonight. And thanks, Karen. It's great to have you keeping us in line. Okay, Abby, I'm going to let you now start with question 4. And that question is, town leaders represent the whole community. How will you help ensure that all of the voices are heard and that all residents feel represented, whether at negotiations over police contract, in the voices of citizens at town council meetings, or in any other venue? What is your experience in conflict resolution or with accomplishing complex tasks with a diverse team?
Oh, as I've stated, I have a master's in peace and conflict resolution. I've had a lot of active experience the past years putting that degree to task. But all voices need to be heard. When I first was elected, I discovered that years before, when Mitch Karikas was on the council, they had actually approved a gender neutral policy, but everyone felt great signing it, but then it dropped and nothing happened. So I found that document and we redid it, except this time we stuck to it. And Words matter. Language matters. People aren't going to necessarily remember the Zoom call or one of our thousands of town council meetings or workshops, but they might see the minutes. They might read our charter. That needs to reflect everyone in this community. So that was something I was really proud of. All voices need to be heard. I heard from many folks about increasing their voice in democracy with the 2020 election. That was not an easy task, getting a ballot box. There was so much of that was done in email and meeting in so many different formats. It wasn't I think we should have a ballot box. It was a bit of a battle, to be quite frank, but now we have it, and now we're going to have it for this next election. And going forward, kind of like Zoom, that has opened us up to more transparency and more public involvement. Zoom will continue as well once the pandemic is over. In conflict resolution, I have specific training in labor union negotiations. I assisted the previous town manager with the last police union contract. If reelected, I will assist again if that's helpful to our new manager. It was a great opportunity to listen, to hear what our officers want. We are so blessed in this community. I'm still grieving over Lieutenant Burbank retiring, although I wish him well. But we're so blessed with great officers and great staff. And so in that session, I really got to hear, we have a problem. We need to keep good people here, not just in our police force, but also staff. And I heard overwhelmingly they wanted a rehire program. So we're gonna figure out how to make that work, because it's a piece that people want, and it's gonna help retain some good.
2 minutes.
Let me see. I still think we have more in common than not. I think we all care about our families, our neighbors, our schools. I think it's possible to have civil discourse. I think we had some controversial points at town council, but everyone was heard. Everyone was respected. And I'm really proud of that. I welcome and encourage inclusion. It's a privilege and an honor to be a voice for all of the people of South Berwick.
Thank you, Abby. All right, Jeff, you're next for that question. How will you help ensure all voices are heard and residents feel represented?
Great. The pandemic, as we are hearing everywhere, has opened up new ways of communication and participation like we're experiencing here tonight. Yet some still are feeling disconnected. As I've gone door to door speaking with people in town, there are many who did not feel heard on a number of different topics. And I think this needs to change. A little about me. I've spent my entire life with nearly 75% hearing loss in both ears. It's gotten a little better with some surgeries, but what I've learned through that is that hearing is different than listening. Hearing is natural. It just happens. Listening, it takes effort and empathy. Listening allows me to understand a person's perspective. Despite my struggles with my hearing, I am a great listener. Paired with that, clear expectations are crucial to the success of any group. In my career, I've been in the driver's seat, ensuring multi-million-dollar projects are completed on time with team members from around the world. Having a clear plan with time-bound milestones and using or creating tools will help document progress and ways that I manage projects. I've found that structure minimizes some conflict simply because transparent communication helps to decrease frustrations. As I've talked with people, I've encouraged them to stay informed, and all the time I'm just saying, reach out to me however you can. I welcome the conversations because I think there's value in the conversations. If elected, my message remains the same. However, I don't believe that it's solely up to others to come to me.
2
I have
minutes.
been, and I'll continue to actively seek out ways to be involved with groups all around town, from Shoetown to Emery's Bridge and Old Mill to Old Fields. Thanks.
Thank you, Jeff. All right, Matt, that question to you. How do you help ensure that all the voices are heard and all residents feel represented? Matt, do you have to unmute yourself?
I hit it, but it didn't go. I believe the town people, I think it's their responsibilities to share their concerns, that they are heard, and then to hold the town councilors accountable. You elected them. They're there for you. Make sure they do what they're supposed to be doing for you. Meetings, going to the meetings, the Zoom meeting, like Jeff's just said, this is an awesome venue that you can get a lot more people involved. People that can't always get out because they're coming home, they're getting the kids fed, they're getting the schoolwork done. All great things. This is a great venue to go that route. But to that point, I don't believe posting your issues on concerns on social media is the way to go. If you have a problem, take it to the people that can deal with the problem and help you make it go away. Because in the end, the council is going to do or should do what's best for the community as a whole. And the only way we can do that is to take all these concerns, put them together, and see where they lead us to. Much like Jeff dealt with multi-million-dollar businesses over the years, you learn to manage them, you learn to come up with goals, and I think that's the key, is to set a goal. You determine how you're going to achieve that goal, what each person or group's responsibility during that process is. And you want those people to be heard and to be involved in the process. You want them to be invested in the process and understand what that goal is and the path to achieving it. And I think that's important as a town councilor. I think that's important in life. And I think as Jeff kind of touched on, that's what listening is all about. It's not just hearing the words, but it's understanding what they're saying and why they're saying it. And that's one of my strong suits. It's what I did for 17 years with Mainwood Design, and it's what I did the 14 years that I was involved in the Little League program. And I think that's why we were able to take that Little League program and turn it into what became a model for the southern part of the state of Maine. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Okay, Jessica, that question to you. How do you help ensure all voices are heard and all residents feel represented?
Awesome. So let's face it, in order to have all voices heard, we need to get out of this communication desert and have some technology that works for the town to better inform us of the agendas and meetings. I would extend an invitation to folks to attend the town council meetings like this Zoom. You can do it virtually. You can speak for your allotted 2 minutes during public comment and then ask the town council for the next step. Hold us accountable. I'd also encourage the new town manager to negotiate our contract with Comcast reasonably. 1, to ensure that we get good internet service, and 2, to obtain a public access channel. Professionally, I also write contracts, and I know that if you don't ask for it, you won't get it. The internet doesn't need to be so hard. So let's reassess our website. Let's be transparent, and let's make some updates to the town's web presence. You can see the lack of interest by members of the community to become involved in boards and committees simply because the community doesn't know the opportunities exist. On day one, I would encourage a complete email audit of our email notifications to make sure that they're working. Just last week, they weren't working for the town council meetings. So my day-to-day work life requires organization, detailed planning, and building deep relationships with other teams. I'm a sales manager. I handle conflict daily so I can close sales. I feel that it is respectful to respond to everyone as quickly as appropriate and to make sure that everyone feels heard. Everyone in town should expect a response when they email a representative, even if that response is merely a confirmation of receipt. Sending a message into a void lacks community. Guys, I'm tech savvy. I am knowledgeable, and I am eager to serve on a 3-year town council seat. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Okay, Alita, you're the last one for this question. How do you help ensure all voices are heard and residents feel represented?
Well, Jess stole half my answer, but I'll agree with it. I totally agree. You can't get community engagement if they don't know where and how to find it. And our website is completely outdated. When I get an email, it tells me there's an update, but it doesn't tell me what's updated or where to find it. That's a huge problem. I also think that we need to be proactive, though, and not just wait for people to come to us, even though we should increase how they know how to come to us. But if you're looking at an issue that impacts a specific area in town, we should be seeking out the input of the people that are going to be immediately impacted by that. I'm still young enough to remember, or old enough to remember, when notices would go out to the surrounding community if they're going to be impacted by a project, so they knew it was happening and where to go and when to go in order to address their concerns and make sure the council knew what that immediate impact was going to be to them and to their portion of our community. I think we need to get back into that habit. Even though I don't necessarily support sending out registered letters, I don't think that's a great idea fiscally. But there are still plenty of other ways that we can engage the people around us and go seek out those answers and not just wait for people to come to us. I also would fully agree with Jeff. There's a huge difference between hearing somebody and actually listening to somebody. Big, big difference. And it's very, very obvious in communications with people in this town. They don't feel listened to. They feel very, very frustrated by that. And I think that there's a lot of opportunity there. I have over 20 years in a customer service background. You don't get 20 years of experience in a customer service background without knowing how to resolve conflict, be it on a small scale with a cup of coffee that wasn't served correctly in a Dunkin' Donuts, which I did do as a teenager, all the way up to now where I resolve conflicts for people who come into my practice and maybe have an issue that they don't understand. And they maybe come in angry and they don't get it. If you listen first and then respond, the response you get is so much better. I also agree, clear and transparent communication, setting clear expectations, but then not just meeting those expectations, but exceeding those expectations would go a very long way. And I agree, we are here to represent the people who live here. It's time we start engaging them better.
Thank you, Alita. All right, I'm going to have you then start with our next question. So you get to go again. The legalization of marijuana in Maine has created much confusion statewide and in South Berwick. Please tell us your understanding as to where South Berwick is now with regulations on the growing and distribution of medical marijuana, recreational sales, and medical marijuana caregiver licensing, and how you believe we should regulate each of these in the future.
Well, this was a fun one to research, not gonna lie. This goes back over 4 years. There have been more meetings, workshops, public hearings, and consultations with attorneys than I care to count. But at the end of the day, what we have still seems like we're a little bit behind the 8 ball in terms of getting this done and in a way that works best for our town. We have regulations for cultivation and growing facilities and performance standards for caregiver retailers. What we really don't have, according to what I've been recently hearing at the workshops and hearings, is the ability to find out who those licensed caregivers are in town, which makes it extremely difficult, if not impossible, to enforce compliance and regulation of those ordinances if you don't even know who it is you're supposed to be regulating. What we still have retail storefronts downtown in residential areas that are now grandfathered in, which is not a great thing. We still have very frustrated residents in a certain area of town that have been dealing with a problem for a long time that they clearly don't feel heard on. And we still have a loophole in our town ordinance in regard to agriculture and what that actual definition is and how that's applied to this situation. Moving forward, we could debate how we got here for years on end. It's not going to make a difference, really. You got to go forward. I do think there needs to be a lot more transparency in the policymaking. I think people would understand the direction the council's going and why they're going there if more of their meetings were held in a transparent environment and not behind closed doors with lawyers and in emails with attorneys, which is, by the way, is costing us, the taxpayers, I'm sure, a great amount of money. I have yet to receive those figures that I've asked for a couple of times now. And as the lawyer has stated at the workshop this week, there are now towns that have implemented regulations that are harmonious with state law. And I understand the state hasn't made this process easy, but at this point, if you have other people that have managed to figure this out, rather than reinventing the wheel, we should be seeking those towns out, looking at those ordinances, and then tailoring those to fit our needs, because this is getting completely out of control.
2 minutes.
At this point, we've had more than enough time to get it done. I think it's time to button this one up.
Thank you, Alita. Okay, Abby, that same question to you. Help us understand where we're at with marijuana and how it should be regulated in these different areas in the future.
All right, 2 minutes again, I'll try. I was asked about marijuana at the candidates forum that your group hosted in 2018. And at that time I said, and I still hold this, I stuck to all my promises I made on the campaign trail, that I supported medical stores if the town supports it. So we have a medical storefront ordinance. It was my idea to break apart, because it is a very confusing topic, to split it up and tackle one at a time. We did not talk at all about recreational use. And honestly, I said this in 2018 and I'm saying it again now, I don't see that coming up at all. It's something that the town has to opt into. And being that I'm hearing nothing from the public that there's a need or a want for adult recreational activity in South Berwick, and also based on the 2 citizens petitions that overwhelmingly were not voted for and supported in the summer, that informs me as well where people are on recreational. What we did do, however, it was stated correctly that we no longer have the loophole because of legal fees. We closed the loophole. Before, it was stated agriculture was anything that you planted in the ground. So if you can plant it in the ground, that was marijuana plant. Didn't matter if it was tomato or a marijuana plant. And we fought that for a while, but this is our legal counsel is telling us. So what we had to do then was we had to define what medical marijuana cultivation is. And we did that. The where, the what, and the how by setting performance standards for it. Going forward in the future, I have so much to say on this, but I completely understand why people are angry. I'm angry. If you're saying that you want things to be transparent, so do I. We had that meeting with the lawyer this week on camera because the last time we did an executive session, and wow, how helpful that information will be for the public because of so much misinformation. The council for 2 years took that time to create a storefront ordinance, but the council was given the wrong map to make that decision. Hence, we have now a storefront that's grandfathered
2 minutes
on Main Street. So that makes me mad, and I can understand how other people would be mad too. I am working hard to make this right and to listen. We are solving a lot of these communication issues by getting a new town manager. And we're asking them specifically about these issues and how they would handle it in the public. So any future move that we do on marijuana is going to involve community involvement and will be done in an open way. I myself am also not happy with misinformation that was provided. And so we're fixing that.
Thank you. Thanks, Abby. All right, Jeff, same question to you. How do we regulate these different areas of marijuana use in the future?
Well, to say the least, it's a complex issue, right? There's been a lot going on in regards to marijuana. I have the same sort of things to say as you've heard, but like I mentioned earlier, been diving into the ordinances, and our ordinances, section 140-67.1 and 2, our ordinances say they allow for caregiver retail stores and medical cultivation growing facilities in specific areas of town. That's sort of where I'm coming from, is where we stand now. As far as regulating each individual use going forward, I don't think that it's up to the opinion of one person, but it is really the decision of the whole council with immense input from the people who elect them. That being said, my time on the planning board has made me keenly aware that inaction on this issue is not necessarily opting out. I think that's very important to recognize. The referendums that we just dealt with this past summer were a prime example of that. I believe that the crucial part of the entire matter falls to the licensing. I've been a strong advocate for licensing throughout the entire process so far. And to be clear, this isn't licensing for the purpose of generating income, but for enforcement. If we don't empower the people working for the town that uphold our rules, then how can we expect them to do their jobs effectively? A thorough and organized understanding of each defined use is needed so that we can have fruitful discussions as a community. And we need to focus and strive for proactive, solution-based decisions rather than being reactive. Thanks.
Thank you, Jeff. Okay, Matt, your turn to weigh in on this particular question.
I think one of the biggest struggles the town has faced on this marijuana issue is the state of Maine itself. They changed the requirements. They're still massaging their own laws. They don't put much thought on the local communities, and the communities will look towards the state for guidance. The last thing that the towns want to be doing is putting an ordinance in place that is going to end up in court and get shot down. And I think it would behoove the town to look at ordinances from other towns that have already been in a court of law to see if they will hold up, and to take parts of those ordinances and cultivate them into an ordinance that would work for the town of South Berwick. Because I don't think we want to be putting the time and effort into an ordinance that, in essence, the court's going to say doesn't hold water. It's a sticky situation. I don't think that 4 years ago, anybody that was on the town council would have thought that we would be here where we are today. I know I certainly wouldn't have when it came up 4 years ago. I know the council's working on with the planning board. I watched a little bit of that workshop the other night, and I thought they did a great job. I thought the town's attorney was good. And as Abby said, it was nice to be able to hear that explanation out there, hear the different things from the planning board and from the town council themselves. It really put things in better perspective. I'm still at a loss at where a lot of this is going. I just think that we need to do our due diligence, and whatever it is that we come up with for an ordinance, make sure that it's solid and it's going to be putting us in a good light if we end up going to court with it at some point down the road. And pretty much everything nowadays eventually is going to find its way into court because people are going to want to try to find a loophole.
2 minutes.
Just where I'm going to leave it.
All right, thanks so much, Matt. All right, Jessica, you're the last one for this question.
Marijuana. It's complicated, right? I think we've all reiterated that the fact that this is a sticky kind of thing, but really it's all about zoning. And our comprehensive plan has not been updated in over 10 years, and it needs to be updated to reflect our current vision for our residential, business, and industrial zones, both now and in the future. Our ordinances also need to be regularly reviewed and updated as appropriate in a timely manner. Many towns have ordinance review committees to help the town council and the planning board with this work, so perhaps we should explore this as well. For years, South Berwick put off dealing with marijuana issues and extended moratoriums instead. As nearly every town around us was writing and adopting marijuana ordinances, we were just ignoring it. Over the past year, a tremendous amount of the town council's time was spent on marijuana. There were 2 adult use citizen petitions. There were concerns about the medical storefront ordinance they enacted in 2020, and the fact that the medical cultivation and manufacturing issue could no longer be kicked down the road. We need to understand we cannot continue to ignore these types of issues and legislate by moratorium. We need to understand the issues and get legal counsel whenever needed, that's transparent, and work to address the issues with the involvement and the feedback of the citizens. As a counselor, I'm not interested in 2018. I'm interested in 21 and 22 and beyond. I will work to help our town become one that is out in front of these challenging issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. All right, well, that is actually all the questions we have. So what we're going to do now, actually starting back with you, Jessica, is just let everybody provide some closing remarks and talk about any issues we didn't ask you about that you want to address.
Guys, it's been a real fun night. Hope you have a pen out. What else would I like to address? I know that I kind of went through our communication and transparency needs, our planning needs, and also our community engagement needs. But there is one more thing I'd like to talk about, which is a recent loss of $2.3 million from the town of Peterborough, New Hampshire, due to an internet phishing scam. When elected, I will work with the HR director and town manager to place security into routine staff training. I will also advocate for the town to reassess the cyber insurance policy to be forward-thinking in regards to malicious data attacks. We need a comprehensive data plan. In this day and age, our digital infrastructure is just as important to maintain as our roads and bridges. So, what does a vote for Jessica Sear means? It means responsiveness. It means forethought. It means paying attention to the planet. It means financial assertiveness. And it means a better sense of place and community. So I know you took your pen out, and it's been a one-way forum, and I'm very thankful to Sobo Central for putting this on. But I want to hear from the community. So you can find me at jessicasear.com. There's a form at the bottom. I would love to hear from you, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jessica. Okay, Alita, you're next.
I just wanted to say I have spent a lot of time in preparing for this meeting, not just looking at the questions, but also thinking about what it is that makes this place so special and makes this place so great and why I would even want to do this. It is a big job. The thing that I think that gets overlooked a lot, we have a lot of history in this town. We are very, very, very blessed to have a lot of historic buildings, a lot of tangible history to our town. But the thing that sometimes I think we overlook is that the people who are in this town are also an important and integral part of our history. I still remember going downtown to the market to get a pound of hamburger and a gallon of milk for my mom, and Marilyn Flynn handing me a cookie that was still one of the best vanilla cookies I've ever had in my life. That has stuck with me. That kind of history is important. Right down to this year when a neighbor came over and brought over a meal because our family had a family member that was ill and they saw it. That kind of thing is what makes our community great. The people who live here make up the fabric of our history too. And I think that sometimes that gets overlooked. And I think people are feeling that. They're feeling overlooked. The town council, that seat is there to represent you, but you are the most important part of that equation, not those of us sitting here on this forum. You are. I too would very much like to hear from the people around me. I am on Facebook. For those who aren't on social media, my email is alita.gelvin@gmail.com. Pretty easy to remember. Happy to give it out if I need to in a public way. I so much want to hear from the community. I've already had such great conversations with people around me, and I look forward to that. And I would very much like to represent the people who live here and that rich history going forward on our town council.
Thanks, Alita. All right, Abby, you're next for closing remarks.
All right. 3 years ago, when I made pledges to the public, I am proud to say that I did what you elected me to do. I bring community concerns promptly to the town council. I have been called a citizen advocate by the chair, and I take that as a compliment. Um, I have increased engagement to the point of, I wouldn't say harassment, but positive peer pressure. I'm getting my neighbors, my friends, everyone to volunteer their time to join the marijuana committee, to join the planning board, to join the conservation committee. There's so much vital work that's done. South Berwick runs on its volunteers, the programs that we have, and we really need that. It's vital. So I would encourage, oftentimes people will run for an office and then we don't see them again. I would encourage everyone, if town council is one way to get involved, and there's right now there's 4 of us, but it's a very important job. But the work of the planning board is so crucial to what we do. And with the chair leaving, it's very imperative that some more people start peer pressuring their friends and neighbors to get involved, because I'm stretching my group a little thin with the amount of positive encouragement I'm doing. Transparency was brought up a lot. We're getting a new taxi driver, and transparency is incredibly important. Because of myself and Mallory, there was a couple of meetings that we met in this room here because we've got the live stream here. It wasn't going to be like that. It takes folks with a commitment to public engagement and being open and effective communication for that to happen. But, and sometimes we're teased about it. Oh, we need to be more transparent. I was teased about it when I ran 3 years ago. What do you mean? How can we be any more transparent? There's a lot of ways that we can improve upon that.
2 minutes.
This job, you manage one person and you set the tax rate. You represent everyone in the community. I've been fiscally responsible with your budgets, with your money. I would be very honored to continue another term as your town councilor and for your vote on November 2nd. If anyone has any questions, I will speak to anyone, any group, any organization that has questions. So if you want a one-on-one or a group, that's totally fine. I do have a Facebook page. My email is on our town website. If you can find it, I fully recognize, we were joking about that actually with our candidates for town manager, also noted that our website is horrific. But the whole point is, if we're going to throw money at something, let's have it be effective. To just throw money at something with a person who doesn't have buy-in isn't being fiscally responsible. So we're going to get that new website. We're going to improve communication with our new leadership. I feel very satisfied and comfortable with the candidates that we have. And hopefully that announcement will be coming soon. But we're in good hands with who applied. So I feel very responsible. Thank you for this time. Thank you, Smart Growth, for having this forum. It's so vital for our democracy and getting people involved.
Thank you, Abby. All right, Jeff, you're next for closing. Any kind of closing remarks you want to make?
Thanks. So I'd just like to thank Smart Growth again, you, Lisa, Karen, great timing. Just want to thank you all for hosting this, and for everybody watching. I think it's really great. I also want to thank all the rest of the candidates for participating. I think it's encouraging to see everybody that's willing and wanting to serve the town. Again, like we've heard, I'd also like to urge those of us moving past November 2nd, who may not be elected to the seat that we want, to continue that enthusiasm and volunteer for vacant positions on the planning board and boards and other boards and committees. They're all very important. It's been an honor to serve the town the way I already am, and I look forward to the opportunity to serve at a higher level. Just a reminder to everybody that I'm running for the 1-year term, and so if you have any questions or would like to learn more about me or my campaign, or just like I said, have a conversation, you can visit my website. It's jeffminahan.com. I look forward to seeing everybody at the polls. And again, I think that the vote for our town council is the most important. That's the hands that we're in. Our as I mentioned in my analogy, our town manager is a piece of the puzzle, but the town council, that's the hands that we need to be making sure that we are in good hands with. And so I'm hoping that you'll think about that, think about what I've said, and I hope I get your vote. Thank you very much for viewing this tonight. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Jeff. And Matt, your last closing remarks you want to make.
I'm going to keep it short and simple. Thank you, Smart Growth South Berwick, and Lisa, thank you very much. And all the candidates, really enjoyed hearing everybody's responses tonight to the questions. I know they certainly put some thoughts in my mind that I hadn't considered before in the past. I guess all I can tell you is I am kind of at that point in my life where I'm looking for the next challenge. And to me, the next challenge is the town council position for South Berwick. And I think that having lived in small towns my whole life in the southern part of the state, I have a good feel for what a small town should be like. I think I know why people have moved to this area, and I want to be able to maintain that environment for years to come. I have a daughter 27 and one 24, and they'll be starting families, and I want them to have the opportunity that if it can be in South Berwick, that would be great. Communication, I think that's huge, and it's one of the things that I have been very proud of through all of my life is the willingness to sit and talk to a diverse group of people, listen to what they have to say. And a lot of times the end result comes out of a combination of all those discussions of everybody. And that's why it is important that the town people hold their councilors accountable and that the townspeople also, again, invest in the process and get to those meetings and reach out to the councilors and voice their concerns. And I wish everybody the best of luck on November 2nd. And whoever does get that position, make sure you do the town proud, and wish all of you the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. And thanks to everyone. I just want to mention, because I do think, and I appreciate you reminding me, Jeff, that it might have gotten cut off in the video, just to remind people that 5 people are running for 2 council seats. Alita Galvin and Jeff Minahan are running for a 1-year term to replace Keegan Roberts, who resigned in August, and Jessica Sear, incumbent Abby Kemble, and Matt Rovnak are running for a 3-year term. Before we end, I just want to take a minute too to thank, also for me to thank Smart Growth South Berwick. I just need to let you know they spend so much time creating this event each year. They work really hard to make sure that this is a welcoming event for candidates, so that you can introduce yourselves to the town, the people in town. And really a huge thank you to all of the candidates tonight who are participating and providing such thoughtful answers, helping to make this a really friendly event. I know that is something that I think we're all craving a little bit more of. So I appreciate you bringing that tonight. And thanks to everyone out there who is watching and who may be watching the video. I apologize for missing the first part of the recording and cutting you off a little bit, Lisa. I'm sort of new to all of this too. So just in closing tonight, a reminder to mark your calendars. Election day is Thursday, November 2nd. The polls at Town Hall will be open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Absentee ballots can be requested online or in the town clerk's office. And the last day to request an absentee ballot is Thursday, October 28th. Ballots can be returned in person, by mail, or via the drop box that will be installed near the rear door of Town Hall. And they must be returned by 8 p.m. on election day to be counted. Town clerk does urge voters to return absentee ballots as early as possible to prevent the log jams that do occur on election day. Sample ballots, including 3 state referendum questions, are posted on the town clerk's page at southberwickmaine.org. So thank you all again. That brings our forum to a close. And
you had listed it as being on Thursday. The election's on.
is on what? I'm sorry, Abby, say it again.
Election was on a Thursday and it's on a Tuesday. It's November.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm reading my notes. I apologize. So just Abby, to let everybody know, election day is Tuesday, November 2nd. Did I get the date right? Okay, apologies. Not a Thursday, Tuesday. Thank you for correcting that. Hopefully the rest of the information I provided was right. Okay, good. All right, everyone. Well, I so appreciate this. Hopefully next year we'll be back together in person in a room. That would be great. I know we all miss that. Good night, everybody. Be well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.